Yeah, g'day. So, with Autism Awareness Day that's just recently gone past, it is the 5th of April right now, and Autism Awareness Day is the 2nd of April. I just thought I would share with you guys my walk. As some of you know, I am highly functioning autistic. I don't really often like to bring it up because I don't want it to define my character. It's a little bit like the LGBT thing, like they shove that down your throat and it's like, is that really all you are? Is just your sexuality? Is that all you are? Is just your mental state? It's like it's the same thing. I feel like there's a lot more to it than that. But regardless on how you feel about what I just said, I just thought I'd share with you guys my walk and how I've perceived things. Because that's what it really comes down to, is how you've perceived things. I can't speak for everyone with autism, nor would I want to. I mean, everyone's an individual, right? So there's a lot of misconceptions out there, like misconceptional information that people are spreading. Some of it even being in the media, which is, the media is lying about stuff. Shock horror. One of which is people with autism are violent. Not all people with autism are violent, and you shouldn't be scared of them. The most important thing to note is with autism, there is two ends of the spectrum, and no two cases are the same. I mean, there's a lot of similar traits between people, but for the most part, this is where people get confused with, oh, anyone could have it because, it's just so open to interpretation. Well, no, there are similar traits between everybody, but you know, depending, like, there's different quirks, I guess you could say, as well, on top of these similarities. So that's why it makes it different. Um, but for those that don't know, there is a low functioning end where, people sort of take their clothes off and run around and do, don't really know what's appropriate to that degree, like in real extreme cases. And then there's the high functioning end, which is where I'm in, where I can still get dressed every morning and do do different things. Yeah, sort of. Even though I do struggle with some stuff, admittedly, I don't let it stop me though. So let's get all close and personal, shall we? I was officially diagnosed as high functioning autistic quite late in my life. So yeah, when I was a kid at primary school and things like that, I would always wonder why I was thinking a lot different to other people. I don't know. It's really hard to explain. I felt like everyone in my class sort of knew what they were doing when they were told to take out their books and do different things, and I was just kind of in James land, where yeah, I was just too busy thinking about sort of, I don't know, like adventurous sort of different things. Like video games was one thing that I was introduced to when I was younger that that I just absolutely fell in love with, and it really just made my imagination run wild. It also sparked my creativity to draw as well at a young age. I'd draw like, Super Mario and things like that when I was real little, but yeah, so whenever I was in class at school or whatever, and on the playground, I would always, sort of think that I was and like make up my own little worlds. It was kind of it sounds real wacko, but it's you're a kid and that's just how kids play, right? For the majority of the time anyway. And if you don't know, like if you're a neurotypical person, you're probably like, oh, well that's just being a kid. But how about that kind of happens the same in your adult life without sounding too crazy? I used to get depressed quite a lot, even as a child at primary school or elementary school if you're American. Um, and I'd always feel like I just didn't belong. Like I think I would think a lot differently to a lot of the other students in the class. Used to get picked on a lot, but hey, what kid didn't? A perfect example of an autistic moment at primary school was we had a police officer come visit our school, and well, a lot of the other kids were asking questions like, "Oh, did you bust the bad guys? Did you get any burglars? Did you shoot anyone? Blah blah blah." Normal kid stuff. My question was, because they were talking about speeding, and I was like, "Well, cars speeding and things," and I said, "Why do you make cars that go? Why do they make cars that go that fast if you're not legally allowed to go that speed?" And the police officer nearly fell off his chair. He's like, "That's actually a really good question." And I'll never forget that. It's just something that came to me at primary school, and like many kids wouldn't ask questions like that. So yeah, when I reached intermediate or secondary school, I was pretty much the same, just worrying about James Land and yeah, whereas most of the kids kind of had their own sort of sets of friends, and they all knew what they were doing, and they would all go out and do all different sorts of things. And you might turn around and say, well, yeah, everyone's different, and that's true. Everyone is different. And as I went through my life, I've realized that, and that's why I don't really like labeling it. But at the same time, people have to be aware of there are different people out there that don't think the same, and there's a fine line between treating someone as an absolute dumbass, but also treating them like an asshole, like as well. So, treating them sort of like, yeah, it's a fine line because you want people to be aware of your condition, but at the same time you don't want to be talked to like you're you're a halfwit, if that makes sense, which tends to happen in jobs, which I'll get to in a bit. I think I must have been like one of the last people in like my school years to sort of grow out of playing with toys. There was the odd kid I got on with that we were kind of like-minded, but yeah, never looked at anyone in the eye. I've always looked down at my feet all the time when I've walked, even when I was at primary school. I always did. I'm not sure if this has anything to do with autism, but I'm more of a visual learner, as I've previously said in some other videos, where I'll read something and it doesn't sink in. I don't understand it, and unless I'm actually physically watching something, um, then I'll learn it. That's why I don't know. I don't want to sound like an idiot, but I've got really no interest in reading books because I just I yeah, I don't know. I just don't really, it doesn't really sink in with me, I guess. So secondary school or intermediate goes for 2 years. So I was on my second year, but we ended up moving to a city. So I left all my friends behind because my ex stepdad's job was in a different town or city. So we all moved, and yeah, and this was quite disrupting for me because I had very little friends as it was, and then I was just so like all of a sudden uprooted from them, and I had to go to a new school where I knew nobody, and reintroduce myself and do it all over again, and I just like I sucked at that kind of thing, and because no one knew at this point that I was autistic, everyone expected me to do things like everyone else, you know, um, when it comes to sort of people will have this mindset that if you do something enough, you'll just adapt to it and you'll be, better at it. And that's entirely not true. And that all that does is stress people the hell out and make them feel like crap. This is where autism awareness comes in because it's up to you, the neurotypical person, if you're watching this, um, to accept people for their flaws or their quirks, however. Um, and don't don't treat them like they're a baby, but at the same time, just respect it. Just be like, yeah, okay, this person's not very good at say customer service, but um they're really really good in the kitchen, for instance. Like, they pump out food so quickly, and they do things like to the nth degree. They see detail that the neurotypical person can't see. There's all this stuff that people just overlook. I was supposed to get to employment later, but I'm at high school at the moment. But yeah, I guess we could just jump. But yeah, high school was just, yeah, pretty much the same. My mindset, I felt, never really changed. I began to sort of, I think by the time I was at high school, I would almost be at the right mindset I should have been at primary school, because you've learned stuff like, I don't know, I guess everyone says if I went back to school and knew what I knew now, everyone says that, I guess, but yeah, I just feel like my mind's developed a lot slower than most, and like, when I was at high school, and as I even said, with primary school and that, everyone take out your books, and everyone took out their books and they knew what they were doing, and I just felt like I I felt like an alien. Like, it just felt really sort of weird to me. I'd always question things. I'd always question like why, and the way things are. Like, even when at primary school, I'd do it, and why are we all doing this? Why are we taking out our books? Why are we, you know, doing all this? What's the point? What's the point of throwing freaking balls through a hoop or something like that? I don't know. Not talking about basketball. I'm talking about like hula hoops, and we used to play this game called Rob the Nest or something, where you all put these hula hoops down and have like one in the middle, and the kids would come grab the balls and that are in the middle of the hula hoop in the middle, and they would have to run the balls back to their own hoop. And yeah, there's probably another name for that, but we just used to call it Rob the Nest. Um, yeah, that was good times, but I wasn't really good at sort of physical activities. Um, I probably was more so as a kid than I was when I got older. But yeah, sort of getting up there and joining in with the other kids and things wasn't something I was comfortable doing at all. I didn't like being the center of attention. I didn't like being sort of other people watching me do things. I wanted to just kind of keep back. I'd stand back when it come to things. Like, oh, we're having like a picnic or something, everyone come dig into these fish and chips or something like that, and I'd always stand back, always. And another thing too, I never really bother like eating in public and stuff. Like, when it comes to things, like if someone invites me over or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, have this. I cooked like, lamb shanks or something." I'm just like, "Yeah, I'll pass." I'm not really. I don't like doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It's just my quirk, I guess. But anyway, we'll go to employment now because, yeah, this video is probably going on way too long. But employment, for me, I guess I got my first job as a paperboy when I was in high school, and yeah, I did that for a while. I think it might have been when I was at second year intermediate or secondary school. Um, that's when I got that's when I got my paperboy job. I think when I left high school, I was working at a fast food chain, McDonald's to be precise. So yeah, I ended up working there like part time while I was working at school, and that was stressful because your parents kind of, well, your mum and your stepdad kind of ask, they expect you to do what they did when they were younger, I suppose, and they weren't really to know, but I found it pretty hard because you're exhausted, and then when you're at when I was working at McDonald's, I can't do customer service. Like, I just cannot do customer service. I had everyone be like, "Oh, we'll just train you on it." And you're like, "Don't worry. The more you do it, the more you'll just thrive at it. Don't worry. You'll be a pro in like 3 weeks or something." Well, how wrong were they? Because I mean, I'd been trying to do it all my whole life until I was diagnosed, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't concentrate on the screen order, like the order on the screen. If you're going to order fast food, please have some respect for the people who are taking your order because they've got a lot to take in. You know, they've got to try and get your order right. The menu's a fucking nightmare. Like, you can't find half the crap on the screen. Like, there's just so much. And, you think even a dumbass could do that job? No. I'd like to see anyone go behind that counter that hasn't, like, even the slightest bit of experience of customer service and try that job. It's absolute hell. Um, and you go there anyway, and like you've got to worry about like the cashier sort of situation. You got to take the money off people. You got to find the like all this stuff on the screen is like menus stacked upon menus stacked upon menus. You got to just go through a menu to get to a menu to find another menu. If that makes sense. And then you're like, oh, and you get their stuff. You take their change. And then you hand out their order, and it's just like, getting their order together and stuff as well. It's just everything at once. Like, it's all screaming at you, and you're really like overwhelmed, eh? Like, it's just crazy. And not only are you looking at them, you're looking at the person mopping the floor over there, and the fry thing's beeping, and you've got like all this crazy stuff going on. And I was quite overwhelmed with things like that too when I was at primary school. I noticed kids that are possible candidates for autism, whether it's high functioning or the low end of the spectrum. Um, I don't like saying the low end of the spectrum. I wish I could. Yeah, I'll just say the other, um, because it just makes it sound like I'm putting them down, and I don't want it to make it sound like that. There we go. Overthinking. That's another autistic trait. Um, but yeah, like when I was a kid, I'd go to the mall and things, and like, you're concentrating on, you're more looking at bumping into people and things like that. You're trying to stay the hell out of everyone's way. That's more what you're trying to do. You're not looking at everything. You go to the toy shop, you're not looking at the toys. You're looking at, this mother pushing a pram with another two kids beside her, coming down the aisle, and you're like, crap, I got to get out of her way. And, it's just it's hell, man. It's hell. It plays on you. It plays on your mind, and like, no matter where you are, and you think, yeah, I can just swallow it down and not worry about it, but everywhere you go, it follows you. And yeah, you can try your best to be like, oh, don't worry about it, but it's there. It's always there. It's like this annoying parrot on your shoulder the whole time, but it's like it's controlling your heart rate as well. Because you have anxiety, you're just overwhelmed with everything going on around you. You're looking at the guy mopping the floor, you're looking at the lady pushing the pram, you're looking at the guy friggin' shouting at the cashier, or, just all this stuff. And it's like, you get brought to a market, or, oh, markets are hell. Markets are absolute hell. Used to go through a few of those when I was a kid too. Mum used to take us. She didn't know, but she always wondered why I wasn't walking beside her, and I'd always walk behind her, or I'd always sort of be ducking and diving, moving out of the freaking way. And it's like, well, even when I got a bit older, she still didn't really get it. But I was just, as I got older, I was able to say, look, highly functioning autistic, yeah, you know, um, it's yeah, it's not a pleasurable experience whatsoever, and you can't just push it aside or harden up or get over it, which I've been told a lot of times. Um, but yeah, markets, man, that's just absolute chaos. I can't stand them. You don't even get time to look at the stalls because you're constantly ducking and diving. But yeah, anyway, when it comes to working, I'm good at repetitive work. Um, I like with McDonald's and that, I thrived the best when I was in kitchen, and as long as they didn't try and get me on anything else, which McDonald's, they try and train you on everything so they can just quickly, snap you off of, say, drive-through order take to front counter to kitchen to McCafe or just whatever. See, I can't deal with that. I just want to do my job and then go home. I I can't learn all that stuff at once or, over a period of time. I just can't do it. Um, it's overwhelming to me. Um, so yeah, McDonald's was hell. Uh, because of that. I had, depending on the store manager, I had some pretty good times though with the store manager. Couple of store managers we had were quite understanding about it, and they did say you can just go in kitchen, and I thrived, and they really loved me in kitchen because I got stuff done. You know, they weren't waiting on anything, and I always kept my stuff really well stocked. And I was in kitchen all by myself over a dinner rush, and it was like a $500-600 hour um, on dinner rush, and because they didn't never they never put near enough staff on, and I ended up yeah, working by myself in kitchen, and it's pretty crazy. But I handled it because I cooked like more than what I should have, but like procedure wise. But then there's how you're supposed to do things, and then there's how you frickin' do things. No job is to the book. But yeah, and then I did another job working in a produce department, which is where I really found it hard. I actually got diagnosed with autism before I worked there. Um, I never forget the day I was diagnosed. It was like a massive weight had been lifted off my shoulders because I felt like the guy that was testing me just freaking he knew where I was coming from, and it was just like I actually cried. I actually cried that day because I was just so relieved. And I don't often cry, but yeah, it was just so good to have someone talk to you and like say everything that you'd been feeling for years. And I broke down when I got out to the car because I was just like, so it was just such a relief. Someone actually understood me. So, with this diagnosis, it gave me self-confidence because I really truly felt like I knew myself. Um, After this, like I knew myself anyway, but to know that someone else knew where I was coming from, and there was like, I mean, you can turn around and say, yeah, it's just a label, I guess, because everyone's different. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but this actually gave me closure, and it made me feel like, like I said, it made me feel like I belonged, kind of thing. Because it gave me self-confidence. But with this new um, diagnosis, I looked over my school reports and stuff as well in recent years, and I saw that there was so many early signs of a kid, that is struggling with autism. A lot of it is like lack of concentration. Um, you know, I was bored at school most of the time because I wanted something that was more stimulating for my brain, and yeah, it's pretty crazy. And like I said, I noticed it with other kids too. When I worked, I'm getting to this now. The produce department that I worked in, I left McDonald's and I went to go study animation and film, and that was so hard because like I was sort of I was all by myself kind of thing in a big city, and I had to sort of make sure I was like living properly, which is pretty hard for me because I'm not very good at holding a routine. I'm pretty terrible at it, which is strange because a lot of people with high functioning autism are over the top with routine, but um, I'm not. It's really strange. So I don't know where I fit in on that, but yeah, like I said, everyone's different. So no, you don't have to tick all the boxes. Um, but yeah, I was working at a produce place there too as I was studying, and I ended up I went there every single day to my course, and I passed with flying colors. I had no days absent. They even gave me an award of a box of chocolates at the end for 100% attendance, so that was quite crazy. It was a awesome Lindor chocolates, really, really fancy stuff. But yeah, and the best part was I got my diploma, so that was cool. Um, then I was working in the produce department. It's this produce place. I'm not going to say the name because it's kind of individual sort of name that would be pretty easy to spot. Um, yeah, and I got the job because I pretty much whenever you're at an interview, you pretty much have to lie. You have to be like, yeah, I can do this, this, and this. Because if you say, hey, I've got high functioning autism, that's it. They just drop the ball and they don't want to know you when it comes to getting work. Like a lot of the times, like if you're already in a job that they know what you like, you're fine. But and then you kind of got to say to them later on, hey, I can't do this because I've high functioning autistic. But I try and do everything they say except for I can't do customer service. That's one thing I just can never do. And here's why: because at this produce place, they wanted me to do customer service because I pretty much I just acted confident on the way in. I just thought I was going to be stocking shelves because that's what I do best. But turns out they are a little bit like McDonald's, and they want you to learn everything. And customer service was one of those things. And I couldn't do it, and I was dreading it. I was dreading it because I knew it was coming up. And then they were like, "Oh, guess what? Um, customer service time, you're going to be learning the till today." And I was like, uh-oh. All I was doing is stocking shelves on that before, filling the shelves up with fruit and veg. I was really good at it too. Like, and I was like good at cutting prep and like I would get the orders in and stuff as well. Like, I wasn't just doing shelves. I would do quite a lot of things and like rotate stock and, do all sorts of different stuff. But this one day they got me on counter and I was just so overwhelmed. I tried telling them about my autism. They didn't listen to me. They just were like, "Oh, you'll be all right. We'll just train you up and we'll take it slow. Well, it should be okay." I think they were a little bit hesitant, but they tried to push me anyway. And yeah, I was the lady that was teaching me it was a bit of a grouch. She was like really, really rude um, sometimes, but yeah, she was actually quite polite to me this day, and she was actually really nice this day. And yeah, she was showing me the till and that, and I was just looking at the customer, looking at the till, looking at the menus on the till, and I was just getting so overwhelmed and everything going on around me, and I just broke down. I actually burst into tears because I just was so overwhelmed, and it was so embarrassing crying in front of your freaking boss, man. And I had to go out back. I went out back, and the 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 big boss, like the owner, one of the owners was there, and she's like, "Hey, what's wrong? Are you alright?" And talking to me about it. She was really understanding and really nice. I will say it was good for that. Like they were at least understanding. When I told them, I thought that's it. I've blown it. This is it. I'm not going to be able to do this job, and they're going to want to get rid of me because I don't know. I can't do service. I just can't do it. And I told them that too as I was bursting into tears. And yeah, they're like, "Don't worry, we'll try and find another place to put you in. Like maybe just have you doing shelves or just something." And it was really nice of them to sort of arrange that instead of being like, "Oh, well, you signed a contract. If you can't do the job, then get the fuck out." So it was good that they actually sort of tried to meet me halfway. Um, but yeah, I ended up getting overwhelmed there too because they they knew I was good at what I did when it come to putting away the order, and they'll slowly stack more and more responsibility on top of me, and I'm not the kind of guy that I can handle that kind of pressure. Like I'm sort of like a do the same thing every day kind of guy and go home. If you want me cutting fruit, I can, and stocking shelves, I can do that, no trouble. Yeah, no trouble at all. And I can put the orders away and things, and then they wanted me to do all these other things on top of that, and it's just like, I just couldn't do it anymore, and it was really taking its toll. A few people left, and I ended up taking their positions on top of my own. There was no extra pay, of course. Like, even if there was, I wouldn't care. Extra money doesn't mean crap to me. I honestly would rather have the comfortableness of the job that I know I can bite off just as much as I can chew. So yeah, that is my story of my autistic sort of misadventures. Um, you've almost spent half an hour listening to me yabber on, but I hope you've learned something. I hope you take something away from this. It Yeah, another thing I want to add too is like I ended up having to come home because I was just so burnt out. I just was I ended up when I graduated, I tried staying in that city for longer, um, and I just ended up getting so burnt out. I got another job working at a warehouse, um, putting orders like putting stuff on pallets and wrapping them up for orders for Kmart, and it was brilliant. I love that job. I was really good at it, too good at it. And this is where autism comes in again. Is it's quite dangerous because you can be too good at your job and you also can be too obsessed with your job. And I was pretty much borderline obsessed. Like I would put in a lot of overtime. I was burning myself out, man. I was burning myself out. No, burning the candle at both ends. I lived next door to these. Like I was in a shared living environment, and like we all shared the kitchen, but we all had separate bathrooms and that. Thank God. Um, I couldn't share a bathroom with people. Sorry, I just couldn't. In a flat. But yeah, when it come to burning myself out, the neighbors over the back would always have parties at ridiculous times. Like sometimes, like 3 to 5 in the morning or something, and I'd have to get up about 5 because I had to get ready to go to work at my warehousing job, which I was completely obsessed with because I loved it so much. And you know, it, I would work weekends sometimes, and oh, it just burnt me out. I just really flat out burnt me out because I put a lot of time into it. And what's funny is when the boss tricks you to working on a weekend, whenever they ask you, what are you doing this weekend? Never say nothing. Never say nothing because you end up getting suckered into working on the weekend. I had it in my head. I was like, "Oh, right, I'm gonna do it if he asks me," because like I worked like the 2 weekends previously, and this was like the third weekend, and he came up to me. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing this weekend?" And I was just he caught me off guard. I was in the middle of doing something. I was like, "Oh, not much," and I was like, "Oh, damn it." So yeah, he really caught me off guard. I ended up having to work the weekend, but hey, it was money in the bank, and I didn't really care because I actually loved the job that much. But it was quite funny. I just felt like I needed a break. But yeah, and I just took it to the extreme and burnt myself out, and because I wasn't getting any sleep because of the party goers at night time, I ended up having to come home because I was just like, oh, I decided to come home. It wasn't like I wasn't well, it was like I wasn't coping because I wasn't. Um, yeah, you can't run off no sleep. But yeah, my floating situation was fine. Like I paid my rent on time and all that stuff, and yeah, uh, everything else was okay. Uh, Keeping up with the cleaning and stuff, I did that at my own accord, and it was pretty good. Like it was, yeah, I did what needed to be done. But yeah, when it come to sort of, I had to come home, and I was just so burnt out. I was, even now I'm still exhausted. And this was like what 3 years ago, and I just felt like I haven't been able to get my energy back since. But yeah, it's crazy. But I'm starting to get it back, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, I'm just doing the odd sort of freelance job. I've just done a book cover for somebody, and I'm waiting for the book to be released. They've been kind of contacting me on and off um, over the last few months. It was supposed to come out in September last year, but yeah, it's it's a little bit late. But yeah, this book's called Differently Abled, and is it's about one man's struggle with being dyslexic, and I thought that was quite cool to be a part of that, to design the cover for that, because yeah, uh, some of it's quite funny. Apparently, he's had battles with sort of government departments and things, and he's misspelt words. Like he wrote pubic instead of public and things like that. And he has a laugh about it. He's got a really good sense of humor. I've met him in person. He's a really nice guy. Um, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that book coming out whenever that is. It should be very soon, from what I hear. He just recently contacted me about it, about the cover, and yeah, I think we have a winner. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. One thing I will add is that I've got really good intuition. I've noticed that I can sense when someone's in the room that doesn't like me, or I know wants to harm me in some way, or just wants to say something smart to try and cut me down. Just someone that has it in for you. I can sense it really strongly. So, just a word of warning to you if you like that and I come across you. So, I know what you're thinking. You can put that down as paranoia, but honestly, my gut feeling has never been wrong. I mean, yeah, when it comes to certain family members and things like that, I've called it, and yeah, and it's been 100% true. One thing I really struggle with is social cues. Like when it comes to a conversation ending, I'm not too switched on. I usually just sort of like, I don't know, maybe I keep talking and don't read the signals that someone's wanting to go, or yeah, things like that. So if I'm talking to you and I'm holding you up, don't hesitate to tell me, because I could talk a hind leg off a damn donkey. These social quirks, or you know, misreading of social cues and things, has been a bit of a struggle when it comes to relationships too. Like, I don't really know when a girl or someone's interested, because I'm just automatically, I don't know, I'm broken in that sense, I guess. Like, I just can't seem to, like, I don't really know if someone's like keen or not, kind of thing, that wants to go out on a date or whatever. So I kind of just like don't bother. Um, it's probably a lot easier for me that way. So yeah, I've got a lot of friends though. Like, I've had a few friends over the years. They're like-minded. Some come, some go, and it's not about the quantity; it's about the quality for me. Um, so yeah, uh, but everyone I've sort of come across with in my life, that I've been friends with, I've you know really enjoyed, and I appreciated them for the time being, and yeah, uh, it's had a few laughs. I try and sort of I try and be sort of a sense of humor as well to people. Like, I try and give them a laugh. It's another thing. I'm very quiet when I first meet you, and I'm very quiet when I'm around people that I don't know. I tend to stand back in the crowd, like I mentioned earlier. But once I know you, and like it's just you and me in the room or whatever, then we'll have a few good laughs, and joke about stuff, and I have a beer with you, and just yeah, have some jokes that yeah, so, I guess you could say you kind of when you point out the obvious about things, because you're quite logical when you have highly functioning autism. Um, you can give people a lot of laughs because you think of stuff right like as it's happening, pretty much, and well, before it's happened a lot of the time. Um, and you can see what's going to happen logically, and then people, I've had cases where I've been at work and things have been, someone's going to make a stupid decision or something, and I've been like, hey, you guys, it's going to do this, and like, oh, whatever. They don't listen to me, and then next minute it happens. But yeah, I'm not saying they should listen to me. I'm just saying, I know things when that happens. I can see, I can foresee something happening because, I think logically. Um, I'm just surprised, like, quite a few people don't. Like, I just assumed that others were, I guess, like, on the same sort of thinking pattern. But it's really cool when you meet someone else who is, because the jokes that you say they get. Whereas a lot of people, it's probably a bit too fast paced for them, and that's fair enough. Well, they just don't understand it because it's way over their head, and that's fine too. I don't mind. I try and adapt my humor for different people, but yeah. Uh, so yeah, that's about that. Another thing I haven't covered is um drugs. Like I was put on antidepressants when I was in high school years. Um, Probably not long after high school as well. I was put on them because the doctor didn't diagnose me with autism. They diagnosed me with depression and just thought it was easier to chuck a pack of pills at me like they were a packet of M&Ms. Um, so yeah, from memory, I was on two different types of antidepressants over my time, and they really threw me for a six. I'm not saying you should, if you're on antidepressants, I'm not saying you should give them up, but you know, for me, this did not work because it wasn't depression I had, it was, I'm highly functioning autistic. So yeah, um, this was quite hard because I it really messed with my head, really, really messed with my head. And when I was coming off them, it was even worse. With autism, depression is a common symptom with things because you can kind of see life for how it is, and yeah, it's not pretty. And when it comes to getting like seeing life for how it is, you do get depressed because that's a natural thing. Um, and another thing too is, not feeling like you belong is another thing. And that does lead to depression, it does. But you got to realize you got something to offer too. And if you don't try and you don't put yourself out there, you never know what you might miss. So, yeah, talking to anyone now um, that is going through anything that if they do have depression, then yeah, keep your gloves up, keep up the fight. Um, it's not easy out there, but you shouldn't give up because uh, like if you don't create a piece of art, you never know what the reaction of others would be if you didn't create it. If it's not out there in the universe for people to consume, you never know what you might achieve if you just put your stuff out there. Not necessarily artwork, but anything you're passionate about, music. Um, not just animation, but painting and uh, even cooking, anything like that you feel like you want to get into. And I know what it's like with depression because I've had it, I've been through it, and shit, I still get it if I was be honest with you. Um, but yeah, like there is, you've just got to not sort of dwell on it, as harsh as that sounds. You gotta try and sort of think about how can I make someone else's day, or how can I sort of pull myself out of this, even if it's the smallest thing. Even if it's like you just, go buy a cheeseburger or something. I know I shouldn't encourage like eating your feelings, but sometimes it pays to just have a bit of a me moment, have a have a bit of a self-pity party. There's nothing wrong with that. And go watch a movie that makes you feel good, even a sad one, and just have a good cry and, maybe eat something that you enjoy eating, and hang around for a friend that you can shoot the shit with, or have a beer, but don't have too many. I don't encourage excessive drinking when you're feeling depressed. That's a really bad path to go down. So yeah, these antidepressants really messed me up. When I was coming off them, I was getting really heavy suicidal thoughts. When I was on them, I was getting suicidal thoughts. Sorry. And when I was coming off them, I was getting visual, I was visualizing me doing it. Um, and just all these horrible images would come into my head. Like it's gonna sound really psychotic and like really psychopathic, and I know it does because I lived it, and it was fucking terrifying. One of the drugs I was on was fluoxetine. Um, if you're taking that, don't freak out. Yeah. But yeah, you might want to talk to your doctor or something before you even think about going off anything like that, because it's not just a case of going straight off of it cold turkey. You really need to talk to someone about it first. Um, but yeah, anyway, um, and I was seeing these really horrible images. Like when I would close my eyes to go to sleep at night, I'd see like rotting skulls with maggots coming out of them, and I just get these random ticks as well, like random energy just bursting in my head. It's hard to explain, but it was like, um, how would you explain it? Uh, like that kind of moment where you're like half asleep and you kind of have those dreams where you jump. It was a little bit like that, but it was in your head and you were wide awake at the time. And you just kind of like, ooh, you just got this random burst of energy that just like almost scares you because it's like that quick and you jump. It's like a real weird tick. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a real sudden rush of energy in your head and you just think, whoa, um, it was awful. Yeah, like I said, when I closed my eyes, I'd see really violent images, really horrible stuff. I would get scared looking at the kitchen knives and things, thinking I was gonna, i- kill someone or kill myself because it was just so like it was horrible. Like the drugs were actually doing all of this, because I'm not like that normally. I'm not like that now, and this is what happens when you take it and when you're highly functioning autistic. Um, not not just depression. It's not depression, but it's like I wonder if many people. I honestly feel that antidepressants have got a lot to answer for, man. In my opinion, if you're on them and they work for you, good for you. But honestly, like, yeah, like I said, don't give up on them. If you need them, do not. And yeah, don't just go cold turkey. Wean yourself off them. If you like, talk to your doctor about weaning yourself off them, because it's no easy task. So yeah, that was some of the most terrifyingest times of my life because I was losing my freaking mind. I honestly thought I was going crazy. We lived next to this power line, like this power pole, and I envisioned myself climbing up it and just electrocuting myself because I was just that depressed. I was like a zombie as well. I was a massive zombie. Like I just didn't feel anything at all. I didn't feel happiness. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel happy. Sorry, I already said happy, but I didn't feel like angry, um, or anything. Like I just felt nothing, and it was just absolutely terrifying. And you're envisioning all this violent stuff and thinking like that was just, I'm not a violent person at all. Never really, never thought about it at all. So, um, that kind of stuff. So this was actually really terrifying. I was scared of myself, and that's never a position you should be in. Yeah, and anyway, the doctor, every time I went to speak to him about the drugs not working, he was just like, "Oh, we'll up your dosage, we'll up your dosage." And it's like, well, if it's not working, then surely, we can just not, it's just not working. Like, what's going on? But no, and then like before the effects of the drug that I took, could wear itself off, he was quick to say, "Oh, we'll try you on something else." After I went back there a few times and said, "Hey, it's not working," and he's like, "Oh, I'll up your dosage." So I was he tried to put me on something else, and this would have been the third type of antidepressant that they'll try me on, and they don't even give you a time for the other antidepressants to leave your system before they chuck some other crap in you. And I said no, and it was really hard because mum just she didn't know any better. She wanted what was best for me, and I was just like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to take pills for the rest of my life. And I stood up to mum and I stood up to the doctor and I said no. And this was really, really hard because, these are two people that are, one's a specialist, which you're supposed to take their word as gospel, and you've got, your mother, which you taught at a young age to respect, so it wasn't easy, but it was the best move I ever made because no one knows your body like you do, and you know how you feel. So um, take note of that. Take note of how you feel because you're the one that calls the shots, and at the end of the day, you're the one pumping these pills into you. Like they would work for like the first week to the first 2 weeks to a month, and I found like it was like a seesaw, like it was out of balance, and then when you take them, it kind of goes into balance, and then after a while, the seesaw starts to tip up the other way, and then you're like, oh, you're down, and all of a sudden, everything else is up, and you're just like, okay, these aren't working anymore. I was good, and like at one point, and then I went to sort of just a downer again, and I was and I and I've lost all feeling. Like, you don't have any happiness or anything. So anyway, yeah, after I stood up to my mum and the doctor, and that took a lot for me to do. But yeah, I'd rather do that than be a zombie for the rest of my life. And yeah, I think I made the right decision because then it was like a wee while after that. This was not long after I left high school, mind you. Just keep that in mind. So yeah, not long out of high school, and they were trying me on all these drugs. Like they tried to get me on 3 different types. I tried 2 different types, and then the third one I told them to stop it. But yeah, and then I was old enough to kind of like go out to parties and things like that. I wasn't. I never really felt comfortable in my gut doing it. I hate socializing to that point, and I don't know how I did it now I look back. But yeah, one night I ended up. One night I came from a party and where some girl I knew from school, I had a crush on her, and we went out for a bit, but at this point we weren't talking. And yeah, we were at the same party together, and she was in town, and we'd both been drinking and that, and she we got a taxi in the same taxi, and she went to McDonald's, and I went there with her, like I followed her kind of thing. Like we were both, in the same cab, both got dropped off at the same service station and walked across the road to McDonald's. And yeah, and in McDonald's, there's these punks in there, and they were all just kind of they said something smart, and I retaliated. I said something smart ass back. I was like, oh, I could give a fuck what you think, something like that. And uh, anyway, she ended up leaving because, like I said, we weren't talking at the time. I just wanted to be around someone I was familiar with. And yeah, she ended up walking out of the restaurant before me and went down the road a bit further. And then I followed her out. And as I was going out, these guys got up and followed me out. And one of them struck me in the back. And I turned around and just said, F off. And then he did it again. So I was like, right, I'm gonna have to. I've had half a dozen beers and like a few rums, so I was barely in the mood to walk, let alone fight. So I was like, right, I'm gonna just hit him back kind of thing and tell him to sort of piss off, give him the hint. And I thought that would have been it, like after he hit me the first time, but he did it again, so he wasn't letting up. So I was like, right, I turn around and I go, I start laying into him, and I didn't realize that as him and I were having a scuffle, the his mates were surrounding us both, and he just kind of I got him in the face a couple of times, and he hit me a few times, and he started walking backwards, holding his face, and then as he walked backwards, everyone around us like started like moving in, so there's like the circle just closed in on me, and they all just swarmed me. There's about 8 to 10 of them, and they just knocked me around like a pinball, and luckily the girl that I knew, she was just about to go around the corner, so she would have missed the whole thing. But she saw me, and she came running back, and by then they had knocked me out and left me on the ground. Well, they were still laying into me while I was on the ground. Apparently, I didn't know because I was knocked out at this point. They were kicking me in the mouth. One guy was really kicking me in the mouth, and I had braces on, so you can imagine my face was quite pretty afterwards. They didn't hit me in the nose though, which is different. It's not exactly a small target, but yeah. Um, so yeah, they one of them was laying into me. The other guys kind of backed off. So she said, because this is, like I said, I was knocked out. I didn't know anything at this point. This is from her perspective. Afterwards we talked, and then she was looking in her the girl that I knew was looking in her bag for her phone, and she found a bottle of bourbon. She was an alcoholic. I didn't really want to get into that, but yeah, it's another story. But she found a bottle of bourbon in there, and she's like, "Leave him alone, or I'm gonna hit you with this," kind of thing. And the guy that was kicking me in the teeth while I was knocked out turns around, pushes her on the ground, and grabs the bottle. Oh, sorry, he grabs the bottle off of her, smashes it in her hand, putting like a crescent cut in the palm of her hand, and then he pushes her on the ground. And then he was about to do something to her while she was on the ground, but then I somehow got this random burst of energy. I swear I had an out of body experience. Like I died and I was looking at myself on the concrete with these people kicking the shit out of me. So weird. And yeah, but anyway, like I went back into my body and I got up, and that's when I got the burst of energy to get up, and I just I I remember seeing the Golden Arches, the McDonald's M. That's because I was just outside the McDonald's. I got knocked out, and I didn't know she was there. I had no idea what the hell was going on, but all I knew was like in that split second, I knew I had full energy and and all that before when I first started, and there was no way I was going to turn around and start fighting them again because that would have been it. Um, I had to leg it, and she ended up legging it with me, but I just remember hearing all these footsteps behind me, and it was yeah, it's pretty terrifying. And they wanted me dead, man. Like they actually wanted me dead. I ran into the McDonald's and she was there with me, and we were both bleeding all over the floor. And yeah, it's pretty rough. Um, like there's a warden or whatever at the McDonald's, and he's supposed to like guard it for riffraff like that. And well, he did his job that day because he ended up locking the doors. They were banging on the windows. They wanted to kill me. Um, I don't know why. Like just after, it must have been some kind of gang initiation or something. I don't know, but I don't know who they were, but surely not, because I'm pretty sure like not even gangs do that now. They're just probably just a little bunch of punks. But yeah, they tried knocking me out, and yeah, they did. uh, but yeah, anyway, I had to go to the toilet to throw up because I've been kicked in the balls that many times, and mm, that girl and a couple of her friends got there, and I spewed up a little bit, and then by the time I looked up from the toilet bowl, there was two paramedics standing where they were standing, her and her friend, and I ended up getting taken away in the ambulance at like 5 in the morning to go to the hospital. My heart rate was going through the roof. I was on it, like it was just adrenaline pumping, and I don't know how I survived it. I really don't. It's not something I'm proud of. It's not something that I would normally involve myself in because the nightlife is not something I really want to be around. It's not my cup of tea, shall we say. Um, yeah, this wasn't like one of my first nights out or anything. This was like I've been out quite a few times and had good nights with friends. When you're drinking, kind of you got the confidence to kind of do whatever, like talk to people and things. I'm never someone to drink and start trouble or anything like that. I've always known right from wrong, and I just, I mind my own business. But this guy, I just happened to say something smart back to him, and then that was it. They wanted to off me basically, and yeah, I went to A&E till like 5 in the morning, and my mum and my stepdad, like, they didn't even call them, and I had to get up off my nursing bed myself, and I was all like really fucked up, like I had a black eye, I had like a stomp mark on the side of my face. I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, wow, like I didn't know how bad it was until I looked. But yeah, they did a number on me, all right, but they they didn't hit me in the nose, thank goodness. Then, which is weird, like I mentioned earlier, it's not a small target. And yeah, I had to get up off my nursing bed and call my mum, and she was just devastated. She was really worried, and she came to the hospital, and my stepdad as well, who doesn't really give a shred of a shit usually. Well, my ex-stepdad, I should say. Don't talk to him anymore. Um, he actually looked like he gave a damn, and yeah, it's the first time I've ever seen him look like he gave a shit. And yeah, he was quite upset, and so was mum. Mum was really upset, and I told them what happened. They weren't impressed. The police mishandled it. I did a statement as soon as I went to hospital. The cops came in, and I did a statement, and they handled the whole thing piss poor. Um, I told them to check the footage, the security footage at McDonald's, because they followed me out of there, and they pissed around for over a month, and over a month the footage gets rewritten over, so they didn't catch them. Long story short, and yeah, so that sucked. But they found the letter T missing at the museum. Um, there's a letter T missing at the museum. Someone had stolen it, but they found that at the time, so that's okay. But if I was a politician's son or nephew, chances are they would have got these bastards, but they never did. Just hope they're in prison or something now, you know. Or I hope they've seen the error of their ways and bettered themselves, but you know, people like that never do. But yeah, this whole experience really screwed me up after a while. I was that anxious and that when I was out in public, and it was bad enough with autism as it is, but with something like that, you know, you're always looking over your shoulder. Mum ended up having was it a Mother's Day dinner, something like that one night, and I had my mum and my ex-stepdad and my sister with me when we were there, and I was that fucked up. I was looking over my shoulder. I was really paranoid. I thought someone was out to get me, you know, and I had my family with me. So it really screwed with my head. Um, and that's about the time they started putting me on like other like antidepressants and things too. Like they had me on that, and that's when I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. But I lost my memory. Like my memory's still pretty shoddy when it comes to short term. Like I'm not very good when remembering things like that happened yesterday or the day before or anything like that. But I tell you, I can remember stuff that happened years ago that people easily would have forgotten. So, you know, things from my childhood and stuff. So that's pretty crazy. It's just real weird because I felt like at one point I'd forgotten just about everything, but then I felt one day that all my memories just came flooding back. It was real weird, like my brain just repaired itself. But I went to the hospital anyway and got a scan on my head, and they reckon that I've got a. The nurse actually said, "You've got quite a thick skull." So that was nice of her. So that's she said, no, it's a good thing because you know that would have caused some serious brain injuries, and I did get like a small brain injury, obviously, to because of what happened. Um, but it would have been a lot more serious had it have like my skull have been a lot thinner, and yeah, just as well I had braces on too because my orthodontist said I would have lost my front teeth. So yeah, thankful for that. That didn't happen. Um, but yeah, it's been a hell of a ride. Then I seen this lady, like I was really screwed up. I was on antidepressants and like obviously I was really screwed up from what happened to me. And I seen this lady who was a specialist with head injuries, and she was wonderful. Like she really helped me. All she said to me was, you know, you're normal for everything you've been through, and that's all I needed to hear. Like that really, really made me feel like I could kind of pick up the pieces and move on kind of thing because I was just so confused about everything. Um, and I was just so like, yeah, depressed and anxious, and I just felt like I couldn't sort of move on because of what happened. And I was like, I get horrible nightmares about the same thing. It would screw me up. Like I get the same nightmares about the same thing, but of these guys beating me up again, but I'm armed with something, and I end up injuring them instead. And it's horrible. It's disgusting and violent, and you know that's not me. But this is how much it screwed with me, and I was on antidepressants at the time too. So it doesn't help. But yeah. Well, it didn't help me because obviously I had autism. But yeah. But anyway, I just thought I'd tell you guys about my walk in life with autism. I hope you've enjoyed watching this and you can take something away from it. Um, just love and look out for each other because you never know what life has like got to bring around the corner. And yeah, take care and yeah, God bless. See you later.